Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Tuesday, May the 31st edition of the Bottom Line Lexington podcast. Hope everyone had a great holiday weekend. Back to life, back to reality here on Tuesday morning. Nothing says good times like when they release every college football team's over-under projected win total out in Las Vegas right around this time of year every year. And Kentucky this year projected to win 5 games out in the desert. Of course, that's what they've won the last 2 previous years. But both those years, they were projected to win more than 5. So if you bet the under, you cashed in. We've talked about it on this show before. You've got 5 games you're not going to win. You're not going to win at Alabama. You're not going to win at Florida. You're not going to beat Georgia. You're not going to win at Tennessee. You're not going to win at Louisville. That's 5 losses right there. I'll give you your 3 cupcake wins, the non-Power 5 teams you play, so you're 3-5 going into the season. The whole season's going to hinge on Mississippi State, South Carolina, Vandy, and at Missouri. Those are your 4 games. You get 3 of those, you can go to a bowl. Do I see you getting 3 of those? Not so much. I think Vegas, for once, has finally hit the nail on the head for Kentucky football. There's no way you could possibly take the over. If you're going to take this bet, you either got to take the under or you don't take it at all. Marcus Lee, late of the University of Kentucky basketball team, now claims he's going to go to Cal to play for the Golden Bears. Cuonzo Martin, again, getting another highly sought-after recruit/transfer guy. What's he doing out there? What was Cal doing the last 20 years? They cheated 20 years ago and got Jason Kidd, and kind of cheated to get Tony Gonzalez, but they haven't had any good players since then. How's Cal getting all these good players now, like Jaylen Brown? Oh well. I guess Marcus Lee followed through on his claim he wanted to be close to home in California instead of just going to Kansas or Iowa State. The odds of Marcus Lee ever facing Kentucky, very, very slim. Now, he'll sit out next year and he transfers, and then the following year, he'll play for Cal, which means when he is drafted into the NBA, if he actually is drafted, when he goes into the draft in 2018, he'll be 23 years and 9 months old. Ancient compared to everyone else in the draft, who he'll be 4 and 5 years older than. And we said it before. He had a chance at Kentucky this past year, and he blew it. In his last 23 games, twice in double-digit points, 6 times he fouled out. That tells me everything I need to know. Speaking of players transferring, Malik Newman, who was a hotshot recruit, top 10 recruit last year, who eventually went to Mississippi State, not only did he pull his name out of the draft, but now he's going to transfer. Now, last year, before he announced he was going to Mississippi State, he said it was between them, Kansas, and Kentucky. So with Kentucky's roster next year, and they're going to lose a lot of players to the NBA draft the following year, including a few seniors actually next year, do you take a chance on this kid? Do you start to recruit him again? I've heard a lot of people say no. I look at his numbers. He got 11.3 points a game last year. He shot 39.1% field goals. And by the way, he did this for a team that ended 14-17 last year, when they were projected to do much better. Everyone's poo-pooing this around here, all these so-called experts, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him in Lexington suiting up season after this one. Although his freshman numbers leave much to be desired, especially with that horrible shooting percentage. Although he did hit 37% of his 3-pointers. Go figure. Memorial Day baseball. Nothing says Memorial Day holiday like Reds and Rockies. Reds won 11-8. Now they're up to 17-34. Reds hit 5 home runs in the great Coors Field air. Those of you fantasy baseball players who used to play in the 90s may remember something called the Rocky Shuffle. And the Rocky Shuffle was something I used incessantly. And basically it was, you get any Rocky into your lineup, especially when they're playing at home. Because the numbers, before the humidor came around in 2002, the numbers at Coors Field were astronomical. I mean, it made guys like Larry Walker and Todd Helton into superstars. It made Dante Bichette and Vinny Castilla viable players. Then you look at their splits, they'd hit 25 home runs at home and 6 on the road. But hey, the Rocky Shuffle worked great. It seemed like one of those old days yesterday. Now they introduced the humidor and they raised the outfield wall a few feet. But still, there's a big advantage to playing in Colorado. Adam Duvall hit his 13th home run yesterday. 12th and 13th home run yesterday. How's that trade with he and Mike Leake looking right now? Mike Leake for the Cards, 3-4, 3.90 ERA, but he didn't get traded to the Cards. He got traded to the Giants. So now the Giants have nothing. They didn't make the playoffs last year with him. So they're out Adam Duvall and a top 10 minor league prospect. Finally, a decent trade for the Reds. What's the definition of a slump buster? Picking up an ugly chick at a bar? Yes, that's one. Also, a trip to Coors Field if you're a baseball player. Yes, that's another. Zack Cozart going into the game, 0 for 18, 3 hits. Eugenio Suarez, 0 for 28 going into that game. He busts out. Heck, even Billy Hamilton had 3 hits yesterday, including a bunt, single. Can you believe it? Maybe he's listening to this show. Dan Straley, I haven't seen this in a long time. In the 6th inning, he's leading 6-5. The Reds are up at the top of the 6th, and they let Straley bat after he'd already given up 5 runs in the game. In the 6th inning, they let him bat. That shows you where that Reds bullpen is. Our starting pitcher, who's getting up there in his pitch count, we're just going to let him bat and waste it out so we can keep him in the game. That's where the Reds are right now. Of course, the Reds were up 11-5 going to the bottom of the 9th. Here comes Tony Cingrani. Non-safe situation. Yes, he gives up 3 runs in the 9th. J.C. Ramirez gets to clean up for his first career save, and hopefully his last career save, because he's just as bad as any of those guys they sent to the minor leagues last week. If you're looking for vulture saves, I think your soup of the day now, Russ Ohlendorf. 5 appearances since that beanball episode with the Pirates, no runs in 5 games. Unbelievable. I saw an article today in the Cincinnati Enquirer, and the headline read, "When is the best time to trade Zack Cozart?" Actually, it was about a month ago, before his little 0 for 18 skid. As of now, he's hitting .297. We predicted several weeks ago that 390 average he was at was not going to keep up. .297 average, 6 home runs, 18 RBIs, and he's up, quote-unquote, to 5 walks on the year. That's your leadoff hitter, 169 plate appearances, 5 walks. You want to trade while the stock is high. That .297 is going to be .247 before you know it. You know why? Before this season, 2,013 plate appearances, career average, .245, average per season, 8 home runs, and 33 RBIs. You can say all you want about defense, but offensively, this guy does not cut it. That average has been dropping steadily for a month. We tried to warn you weeks ago, get off this guy's bandwagon now, and the plummet has started. So yeah, if you're the Reds, and there's some trade talks out there for Cozart, get rid of him now. Because in 6 weeks, that average is going to be down to about .255, and your opportunity will be lost. Then again, who plays shortstop if Cozart leaves? Suarez in his iron skillet glove? Good luck. Reds continue this road trip tonight. The never-ending road trip, it seems. John Moscott, 4.02 ERA, but his first start since April 27th will go to the mound for the Reds tonight against John Gray, 5.95. But then again, he pitches at Coors half his games, so take it for what it is. Colorado, minus 185, which means you're going to get the Reds about plus 175. Rockies, 4 games under 500. The Reds, 17 games under 500. But is there a ray of sunshine for this Reds team? They've won 3 out of 4 versus Colorado this year. Rockies? In a slump. They've lost 3 in a row. That 3 in a row marker is the criteria we use to look at teams to go against. When you've lost 3 in a row, we try to go against you until you prove you can win. Just the same thing with winning 3 in a row. All the metrics point to Colorado, but if you're ever going to take the Reds in this series, tonight's the night. John Moscott, we don't know what he's going to give you coming off the DL. Don't expect anything more than 5 innings because he hasn't thrown 6 innings in any start this season. NBA last night, Golden State wins, or should I say Oklahoma City chokes. You could debate either side. But Golden State advances to play Cleveland. Golden State about a minus 170, minus 175 in that series. Tough to go against the Warriors. Rarely are there upsets in the NBA Finals, especially on this level. But I'll say this, I'll take Cleveland in the points first round. They've had almost 2 weeks to sit around and stew about this game. Of course, the ending of the OKC season last night meant Kevin Durant was on free agent watch, and he was asked literally 30 minutes after the game where he's going to play next year as a free agent, and he said, "Yo, man, the season's only been done for 30 minutes. I haven't even thought about it," which is crap. You don't think that these players think about free agency before it comes up? Oh, now he's just going to start thinking about it. Really? He just didn't want to talk about it. Unbelievable. Kevin Durant, it's better for him financially to stay in OKC, so he will. That's all there is to it. I don't understand what all the hype is about. Big Baylor news over the weekend. We literally asked on this show last week, how does Art Briles still have a job? Well, somebody listens to this show because he got fired. Athletic director's out too. Jim Grobe, late of Wake Forest, the only guy who could ever get Wake Forest to a BCS bowl game, is now the new interim coach at Baylor, as they see their recruiting class for next year fall by the wayside. I've heard people say kick them out of Power 5 conferences. I've heard people say give them that SMU death penalty. None of that will ever happen to Baylor. 15 years ago, they had a murder that they covered up. You think they're going to kick them out over this? More college football. Ole Miss is still in trouble with the NCAA. Hugh Freeze, their coach, comes out today and says, you know what? I'm responsible for all this. Of course you're responsible for all this. You're the head coach that orchestrated the whole thing. Who else is responsible? The kids who are taking the money that you're giving them? Yes, you're responsible. I love it when these coaches do the mea culpa and then they go in front of the press or whoever and say, yeah, it's my fault. It's my responsibility. And then all the press will say, oh, what a stand-up guy to face the music like that. He's a snake oil salesman. I know Ole Miss is some beautiful campus in Oxford, Mississippi, where they allegedly redshirt Miss Americas, as the old saying goes. But seriously, other than Eli Manning, name 5 Ole Miss players that came from that school in the last 20 years. Not named Laramie Tunsil with his dope-smoking gas mask. Exactly. So thank you, Coach Hugh Freeze, for fessing up that it's all your fault. Because you know what? It is all your fault, and you're going to go on probation very soon. I was reading something today about the University of Georgia has now upped their quote-unquote donation for season tickets for the coming year because their athletic department has a $123 million budget. Yes, $123 million just for a college athletics department. Let me tell you how this works. I don't know how this works in Kentucky, but I know this because I have friends from living in Atlanta. I have friends who apply for season tickets. They pay for their season tickets in advance, and they're suggested to give a donation to help them assure the fact that they're going to give season tickets. Now, there's still no guarantee that they'll get those season tickets. So they send in their money and see what happens. The people who don't get season tickets, because there's a long waiting list, the people who don't get their season tickets, they get this form letter in return saying, thank you, we do not have available season tickets to satisfy your needs, but thank you for your donation. So they keep the money, but tell them, sorry, bro, we can't give you tickets. We're all sold out. It's the biggest scam going. I'm sure it's like this at other schools too. I don't know if it's like that in Kentucky because they don't have the season ticket crunch that a lot of these SEC teams have. But it's one of the best scams going. Here, we'll take your donation, but we'll give you nothing in return. Unbelievable. But hey, if you can get away with it, whatever. We talked earlier about Zack Cozart being on the trading block. Another player being on the trading block, and a much bigger name, would be Ryan Braun, who is on my Mount Rushmore of biggest jerks in sports for what he did when he got suspended for drug use and calling the guy who took the urine sample an anti-Semite. And that's why he got busted. One of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, and then more facts came out later that he was totally doing drugs. And then he had to say, okay, I'm sorry. But he never apologized to that guy. That's another story for another day. Amazingly, since Braun got busted for steroids, his average numbers per season are a 279 average, 18 home runs, and 68 RBIs. Whereas before that, his average stats per season were a 313 average, 34 home runs, and 107 RBIs. Amazing how that works out, that he's much worse after steroids. Now, he's been great this year so far, 351 average, 9 home runs, 30 RBIs. You think maybe he's learned how to cheat a different way now? Probably so. But he's on the trading block. All I got to say is, buyer beware. Have you ever heard of the name Trevor Siemian? Well, no, I haven't either. But apparently he's the third-team quarterback for the Denver Broncos. And now, in all this preseason hype, preseason we need headlines, Gary Kubiak of the Broncos came out today and said Trevor Siemian can win the quarterback job for this team, the defending Super Bowl champions. A dude who's never taken a snap in the league. Yeah, right. He has as much chance as being quarterback of that team as I do. But it's summertime, so people have to say something. All right, it's Mac Daddy Stogie time. We had a winning day in our last podcast last Thursday. Today, we'll go to baseball, Boston and Baltimore. Baltimore about a minus 120. You've got Baltimore, Kevin Gausman, 3.24 ERA. But that might be a little bit misleading because his last 3 games, his ERA is 4.86. Boston on fire right now, 11 games over. Eduardo Rodriguez, his first start of the season, but last year at 121 innings, 3.85 ERA. Red Sox won last night. Red Sox catching plus 110. Seems too good to be true So we'll bite. We'll take the Red Sox plus 110 against the Orioles, your Mac Daddy Stogie of the night, and make sure to light that bad boy up by the 9th inning. And that does it for the Tuesday, May the 31st edition of the Bottom Line Lexington podcast. Thank you so much for listening. As always, feel free to follow us on Twitter at BottomLineLex. Email us at bottomlinelex@gmail.com. And make sure to follow this YouTube channel. Thanks again, and until next time, may the winners be yours.